parenting is a lot like training for the Olympics. Sometimes it's like Groundhog's Day, but eventually they learn how to use the bathroom and they learn how to put their shoes on, and these big milestones happen. And if you don't enjoy the little things every day, you really miss out on a lot of amazing moments.
Welcome to Midland Money Mindset, your weekly dose of inspiration and insights to ensure you enjoy each step of your journey. Whether you're saving for the future, planning your next big adventure, or simply looking to add more joy to your life, you've come to the right place. Now, let's dive in.
For decades, women in sports have fought for respect, equal pay, and the chance to compete on a level playing field. The obstacles are relentless: the lack of funding, limited opportunities, and constant battles for recognition. Imagine being one of the best in the world at what you do and still having to fight just to be seen and valued. But what if someone refused to accept that's just the way it is? What if an athlete not only dominated her sport, but used her platform to spark real, lasting change? Enter Jocelyne Lamoureux-Davidson, an Olympic gold medalist, U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer, and one of the fiercest advocates for gender equity in sports. She didn't just play the game, she changed it. Today, Jocelyne is here to share her journey, how she overcame every obstacle, helped secure a groundbreaking contract for women's hockey, and continues to inspire the next generation through her foundation. If you're ready to hear a story of resilience, leadership, and what it takes to create real change, stay tuned. This episode is one you don't want to miss. I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Midland Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Midland Financial. Let's dive into today's show. So we are super excited to have Jocelyne Lamoureux-Davidson today, Olympic gold medalist and USA Hockey Hall of Famer. Jocelyne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We talk a lot about entrepreneurs, which is, I think, very similar to being an athlete these days. It's almost like your own business. And our listeners, whether they liked hockey or not, they like it now because I talk about it so often. So before we jump into your history and what you've done, can you just give us like a 10,000 foot view of who you are and what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm a 3-time Olympian, 6-time world champion, won a gold medal in 2018 in the exciting shootout game. I have a twin sister, Monique, which is a very significant part of my story. 4 older brothers. I grew up in a hockey family, and from a playing career, just grew up playing with boys, went to Shattuck St. Mary's, which was a true gift. Went to a boarding school with my sister, and then played collegiate hockey 1 year at the University of Minnesota and 3 at the University of North Dakota. And now I have 4 kids, and it doesn't matter if you are just playing high school hockey, reaching for the Olympics, striving to play on a national team. Eventually your career comes to an end. And now I just I'm blessed with a family of 4 kids, and that's the joy of my life right now.
Are the kids following in your footsteps? Or are they following the hockey path as well?
Our 6-year-old is playing. And then we just got our 3.5-year-old. She started skating lessons. We had her outside. It was a bad outdoor hockey rink winter. So we didn't get her on the skates as much as we probably would have liked, but she's ripping around at skating lessons now.
So the journey continues.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
It's a vicious cycle, right? Oh, man. So in your USA Hockey Hall of Fame induction speech, you apologize for saying we, which was a powerful testament to your profound connection, as you mentioned, and a very important part of your life that you mentioned a few moments ago, to your twin sister, Monique. Can you share with us what Monique truly means to both you, both on and off the ice? Because as you know, there is that profound connection you mentioned.
Yeah, I think as identical twins growing up, we always had each other, and we played mostly boys sports growing up. It wasn't just hockey. It was almost every sport we played. It was almost always with boys. And so we always had each other going into those situations. And then as I reflect back now and I have kids, I'm like, we're pretty fortunate to always have that. And then as we progressed in our hockey careers, it was an accountability partner from a training standpoint every single day on the ice. Just the expectation to excel for ourselves and for each other just created, it was like if it was a bad pass and the way we talked to each other was not how we talked to teammates, but we just expected execution every single rep. And when you have that every single day with everything that you do, it just created this need to execute and to be the best we could be every single day. It was a competition, but it was a healthy competition.
Right. So not only were you pushing yourself, but you had this other party that was with you almost always pushing you and helping you and forcing you to strive to be the very best.
Absolutely. And I think it's just, if you tell a young, high school kid or just, I work as a strength coach now, but if you have kids and you tell them to run as fast as you can, and then you put someone else, okay, now you're going to race, they're going to run faster. And so we had that every single day. And I just look at that as it's a blessing in the big aspect of getting the most out of yourself, when you're training and the training gets monotonous. It was really just, a live-in accountability partner for everything we did.
Yeah, sure. So listen, you just mentioned monotony. And, one of the things that I've heard you talk about is taking enjoyment in the monotony of getting better every day, right? And I think that this is something that applies to, your career, sports, really any sport. It also applies to your, people's careers or their business. Why is it so impactful to being great at the little things and taking enjoyment in some of that monotony from time to time or always?
I think that's just part of the journey. And when I look at my hockey career, it's, yes, there's the pinnacle of the Olympics, and then we won an Olympic gold medal. But if that's the only part you enjoy, that's a not very fun journey to be on. And you have to find enjoyment in the day-to-day tasks that help you get to that end goal. And it really is in anything in life. I look at parenting. Parenting is a lot like training for the Olympics. You have to, sometimes it's like Groundhog's Day, but eventually they learn how to use the bathroom and they learn how to put their shoes on, and these big milestones happen. And if you don't enjoy the little things every day, you really miss out on a lot of amazing moments that, they're not firework moments. They're just the beautiful moments that happen every day. And so when I think about, some of the coaches we had, the biggest compliment one of our strength coaches ever gave us, Monique and I, was you could put a clock and you knew every single day at what time they were going to be on the turf warming up. And you can put a clock by the great ones because you know exactly where they're going to be every single day. And I think that was just, I appreciated that he noticed, but it really was like, we knew, we were going to be the first ones to the rink every day. We were going to be the first ones on the ice, last ones off the ice for the most part. And just taking pride in that and taking enjoyment out of that is, I think, what makes people great at what they do, is because most people don't find enjoyment out of it because it's hard. It's hard work.
Right. Yeah. People would say it's boring, but but it's necessary if you want to get to the levels that you've been at. Right.
Yep.
So one of the things you mentioned, going to Shattuck, and, our listeners know that my son had the privilege of going there as well. And one of their sayings is, leave it better than you found it. And you've had this commitment of leaving the jersey better than you found it. And I think this was on full display in 2017 when you personally really risked everything as the U.S. women's team united and challenged really the status quo ahead of the IIHF Women's World Championship, right? Mm-hmm. Can you share with us where that fierce passion of yours originated from and how you built such a powerful coalition to do what you did?
Yeah, I think to start, so we had the right people at the right time to make this happen. And ultimately, we signed an historic agreement right before the 2017 World Championships, but that was a 3-year process leading into that. And it was, a core group of leaders got together, and you either complain about things and commiserate, or you make a plan to do something. I had gotten the number from Julie Foudy, who was, she's a U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer. She's on ESPN now. But I got the lawyer's number from her that had represented USA Women's Soccer for about 15 years. And I cold called them, which really doesn't happen today. People don't call, they just text. So I cold called them, explained to them what was going on within the USA hockey program and what we were looking for. And He brought it to the board at his law firm, and it was 5 previous Division 1 or Division 3 athletes, all women, who were like, yep, I want to be a part of this, because it was pro bono. Because he, at the end of the conversation, was like, well, I know how much money you don't make, and I know you can't afford these bills. So that's pretty cool. But I guess long story short, it was negotiations where we just hadn't created progress in about 2.5 years. And so the players collectively said, unless these changes happen, we're not playing. And I don't think collectively a group will do that if it's self-serving, if it's selfishly driven. You're not going to get an entire team, a national team, a U22 team, a U18 team. And ultimately, we had a bunch of players say no to playing for USA Hockey. You're not going to get that if it's selfishly driven, if it's big picture, if this is going to serve not, maybe it serves us, but it's really going to serve the next generation. That's how you get a big group of people to say, you know what, we're going to do the right thing, and we're not going to play if this doesn't change. And so to be a part of that leadership group was just, I think, probably the most meaningful moment in my hockey career, because it really did, I think, ultimately spark the change of, there was, USA Hockey started funding the women's national team program in a significant capacity. And then you had the PWHPA that started for 3 years after the 2018 Olympics. And now we have a professional women's hockey league. And I think without that stand, I don't know where women's hockey would be today from a professional player standpoint.
Yeah, it seems like that event was really the impetus for everything that we're seeing today. So I guess you and that core group are somewhat like the founding mothers of women's hockey, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that, I think to note that there was just a really strong conviction in our leadership group and our team that was contagious, because I think, initially people are going to be like, well, what about my spot? And the conviction was so strong that we were just going to do the right thing, and we were going to keep making the next right decision to make a change. And I think when you collectively create an environment like that, you can make a huge change and create changes where it had been nearly impossible before.
Yeah, and you certainly have, and they've been seen. Do you know finances can be joyful with your partner? We created a fantastic guide for couples to start their journey surrounding their finances. Head over to Midland.us/couplesjoy to download your free copy today. Don't miss out. Start bringing more joy into your financial conversations. One of the things that I found interesting also, after kind of riding this high, if you will, of being able to do that and affect that change around the 2017 World Championship and finalizing that deal with USA Hockey. At the same time, shortly thereafter, you received some heartbreaking news, actually via Twitter, that your alma mater, the University of North Dakota, had cut its Division I women's program. And I think one of the things that this kind of encapsulates is, some of those highs and lows that we experience in sports. Some of those highs and lows we experience in business, and some of those highs and lows that we experience in life, period, right? How do you go ahead and harness the resilience to stay focused during that period of time and still lead Team USA to a gold victory in the midst of all that?
Yeah, I remember that day, because we signed our contract. We were on the plane landing in Detroit when Monique and I found out about the team being cut. And I think it's still a sad situation in my, I go to the Ralph, taking our kids to a couple of the UND men's hockey games, and our daughter's starting to skate now. And it's just kind of a sad situation where you I don't know if you've ever been to the Ralph, but got to be the most beautiful rink in the world. Mm-hmm. It's not the biggest, but the nicest. And it's sad that the university supports a men's program and not a women's program in a facility like that, especially in a community like this where, hockey is the biggest sport in town. So it's sad, but I think to your point of riding highs and then being slapped in the face with the low, that is life, and how you respond and react, I think in the more difficult moments is a testament to character. And my sister and I really could have, I think, trashed the university, and still could. We had to accept, I guess we didn't have to, but we did accept a Hall of Fame acceptance in the University of North Dakota Athletics Hall of Fame 2 years ago. And we pointed out the obvious during our speech, but I think our end goal would be to always be supportive. If the program were to ever come back, we would want to have a hand in that.
Were there specific things that you had to do finding out about that when you did going into the games and, eventually winning the gold medal? Did you just say, hey, we got to put this out of our mind till this thing's over? Or did you let it weigh on you and motivate you to get the gold?
I think in that specific situation, it was, okay, we're here to do a job, and you have to compartmentalize, because we did sign a historic agreement. And we had to put our money where our mouth was at that point. So we had one practice, and then we had to go play in a world championship. And, when you make our negotiations were all over national news. It was all over. So we knew we had to, if we made so much noise going into it that it was like, and we were hosting the world championship, we had to win. We kind of looked at it like we didn't have a choice. And so refocusing on that wasn't difficult for my sister and I, but obviously getting home after the tournament was, you kind of figure out what was going on behind the scenes. And so that is disappointing, obviously. But when it comes to competing, I think, athletes understand, or anyone who's able to compartmentalize and focus on what the task at hand is, that's a pretty easy thing for us to do.
Let's talk about that gold medal now for a second, because you shared that after you scored the game winner in the 6th round of the shootout, and then eventually were draped in the American flag and wearing the gold medal, that your dad whispered to you that, you could have had two. You could have had two of them. Can you share a little bit about how that impacted you and how it's helped you rise above as a result?
Yeah, I think, at first I thought it was funny, and then I'm like, come on, Dad, is it good enough? But then he was right. I should have had to, because I hadn't ever watched the game in its entirety until it was like COVID, and NBC was trying to find, I think, just footage to play. So NBC had replayed it when we were just at home when like the beginning of COVID happened. And I ended up seeing the play. I was like, oh, I really should have had to. But I think it more speaks to the expectation that my dad had of just execution and being the best you could be at all times. And there was always the face in the mirror speech growing up, the life lesson that he gave to all of us. And it was really how he defined success. It wasn't about wins and losses and goals and assists. It was, can you look yourself in the mirror after the game and say you did everything you could with the opportunities you had to be the best player you could be and to be the best teammate you could be. And I remember that from such a young age. And that's really, I think, how my sister and I and my brothers, that was our measuring stick. It wasn't about statistics. It wasn't about, winning and losing. That's all the aftermath. But the could have had two, I think, was just kind of like the cherry on top of what it was like growing up. Like if we scored 3 goals but had a bad game, like he was going to let us know. And I think that's where you learn how to be honest about self-evaluation is, are you just measuring with goals and assists, which if you excel and you're, really good, you're always going to have the goals and assists growing up. But what else did you do to be a good player and a good teammate? And really grateful for that. That's not necessarily how parents are today. And so I'm really grateful that we had that.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. Being that you've gone through that experience with your dad and that upbringing, what's your best advice for parents who struggle with sharing, honest feedback versus supportive encouragement? How do you manage that in a way that is, beneficial to your son or daughter, in a constructive way?
I think it's kid dependent. How the delivery happens is important. And if they don't want to hear it, they're not going to hear it, regardless of how you deliver it. And so I think finding out what sticks and what doesn't stick, and it definitely can't be all negative all the time or like, hey, you need to fix this. It's got to be delivered with, hey, this is what you did well. And I think asking them what they think they could have been better at, I think is really important, because they have to sit back and think, okay, I did this good, but maybe I could have done this better. And if that self-reflection can happen, I think that's where it starts to stick. And then it maybe turns into a conversation, and then you can deliver like, hey, I really think you could have done this better. But we're finding that with with Nelson, our 6-year-old, he's just in termites. But, I see things where I'm like, okay, we're just trying to get him like to battle and to like want to be in there. And that was like just our one focus. It was like, did you battle today? I don't care what you did. I don't care if you scored 0 goals, 10 goals. Did you battle today?
Right.
That was like our one thing we tried to focus on with Nelson. And I think if you can get the intensity level up, then the rest kind of falls into place.
So like to your point, if they could do that self-reflection and basically be their own critic and work themselves through what they did right, what they did wrong, and what they need to correct, it's only going to, make them even better as they age and you're not necessarily around as much as you are now.
Yeah.
So one of the 3 major things that you fought for when negotiating with USA Hockey was marketing dollars for women's hockey events. How has this impacted the growth of girls and women's hockey? Because I think today, you have a better perspective than I do, but I think the difference between where we were when you won that gold medal or when you signed that contract and where we are today is like light years.
It's crazy.
We sort of have a long way to go, but it's a lot different than where we were for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. The last game that I put the Team USA jersey on for was it was right before COVID. It was in Anaheim in 2020, January 2020. I don't know if we sold out in Anaheim, but it was like 11 or 12,000, or it could have been 14,000, but it broke a record.
A bigger crowd than you probably ever had, right?
Yeah, for sure. In the US, yes, absolutely. And I think that record's been broken like 10 times since then. But that game was heavily promoted. And when people know we're coming to town, people would come and watch. And so what we found before, especially during the Olympic seasons of 2010, 14, 18, we were playing Canada a bunch of times in different markets. And most of the time, no one knew we were even in town. So like we'd be practicing and be running into youth teams, and like teams didn't even know we were going to be playing Canada and like the next day. And so if people don't know, they're not going to come.
Right.
Especially on one-off games. It's not like people are following an entire season and we're playing in the same city every night. And so we found that, that Anaheim game was really like the big stepping stone of, okay, you promote it, people come and watch. And then since then, especially with Team USA games, but the PWHL games now, they're playing in NHL venues. They're doing tours like, I forget what the tour is called this year, where they're playing in different markets that those teams aren't located in. And they're getting thousands of fans in every game. It really is incredible. And it's exciting to see the growth. And I think because of that, the NCAA game is just going to grow and get better. And it's going to be like March Madness for women's basketball and soccer. It's exciting to watch, and it's exciting time to just, I think, be following women's sports.
I agree. It's come a long way. So, one of the things I'd like to know is how can men be allies when it comes to growing the game? Because, I think that could be incredibly helpful. So what and where can they help to do that?
I think just be involved if you have sons, be involved like you are in your son's sports and in your son's hockey. Are you coaching? Are you if you're bringing your son to NHL games, or driving them to NHL games, or you're bringing your daughter to PWHL games, or you're bringing them to the college games, getting girls in front of hockey games that aren't just men's games or boys games. I think that's important. And then I think what's cool to see is NHL guys bringing their daughters to PWHL games and just seeing it from an NHL standpoint. That's been pretty cool to see. But I think just being involved exactly the way you would be in your son's endeavors and supporting whatever goals it is that your daughter might have. I think, unfortunately, especially in North Dakota, I don't really think it's supported equally, or girls are pushed elsewhere into different activities when their sons are like gung-ho 2 feet in with hockey. It's not necessarily an option for the girls sometimes. But I think, just supporting your daughters the way you would support your sons.
Yeah, great point. So something that Kellen Brown, who I had on the show back in episode 238, something that she and I had spoke about is how the mentors gain great value from mentoring, right? I'd love for you to share how, even though she was younger than you and Monique, Brianna Decker, who also is a Shattuck grad, impacted your time at Shattuck.
So we actually lived with her our junior year, her sophomore year. We were roommates, the three of us. And just her competitiveness elevated our game. And she was younger, but Monique and I, we would go to the rink early. We'd do extra workouts that were outside of our team workouts. And Decker, she would, because we were waking up, she would come with us. But then, she's also nipping at our heels, to try to like match our game. And I remember junior year, our team was lights out. It was us three, Amanda Kessel, we had Jen Schulis, Sasha. We had, I think our entire team almost went D1, if not, 95% of us, and high end players. And so our games weren't always super competitive that year. So we would do like little workouts after the game or before the game sometimes, just because we knew the game wasn't going to be like that intense for us. And she would be right there with us. And I think that just pushed us to do more and be the best we could be every day too. Because we had that with each other, but we hadn't always had that from someone else other than the two of us. And so I think that just created, a little more intensity for Monique and I, in a good way, I think in a good, healthy competition. We didn't see it as a threat. We're like, hey, come join us. It's going to make us all better. And I really value the relationship I have with Dex. And it's really cool to see what she's doing now. She's part of the Shattuck staff, and text her every now and then. She's just living the dream there with Coach Stafford. And it's just such a special place. I think if you have a kid that goes there, or if you went there, you just kind of understand there's just a mutual understanding of what that place means.
Yeah, it is a special place. We had Gordy Stafford on episode 216. So
yeah, I listened to that one.
Yeah, I wanted to have him on before he retired, because I think that's coming up pretty soon here. So he's a special guy as well. And my son, obviously, because he played boys hockey, didn't have the pleasure of playing for him, but he was in his English class. Yep. So he got some exposure to Gordy that way. And he's one of the few coaches that actually teaches at the school. So he had a little interesting dynamic from that side of the experience.
Yeah, Coach, I can never say enough about him. Just the understanding that my sister and I had with him and how he understood us as players. I think I've had two coaches that really understood the tick that Monique and I had for wanting to get better every day and finding true enjoyment out of that. And he understood us from the beginning. And our second son, his name's Owen Gordy. His middle name is after Coach Stafford. That's how much Coach Stafford has meant to my sister and I. And so Owen's our second boy, and he's all boy. He's all gas, throttle down 100% of the time. And so I send Coach Stafford videos of him every once in a while. And it's always funny just finding joy in just the little thing. Even the video I send him, it's just like pure joy. And yeah, I just couldn't be fortunate enough for the experience we had at Shattuck.
Great stuff. We've talked a lot about joy and where you've derived joy and enjoyment, and we are the Midland Money Mindset, so we are all about joy. And the question that we ask each of our final guests, because our listeners really tune in to hear it because they range the gamut, is what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
I have a morning routine that I always work out in the morning, but with kids and work, I wake up pretty early. Wake up at 4:15 every day to work out. And after my workout, I take 5 minutes to myself, say a little prayer, and just have a moment of gratefulness. And then I get ready for the day. And then my kids start waking up, and that, depending on how the wake up goes, can be really easy, or it can be treacherous morning some days. But I would say just appreciating however my kids wake up, I'm just going to appreciate, okay, we're having a hard time. So we're not going to match that. We're going to find a way to temper that. And that's, I think, especially in parenting, when you're in it with young kids, finding a way to find that patience and be grateful that's a challenge. So that's what I did this morning. And then I have my oldest son, because of the swing of our drop-offs. He actually comes to the gym with me. I work at a gym, and he comes and he does a little mini workout with one of the clients I have. And that honestly might be the best part of my day, because he actually really likes it, and he gets a little chocolate milk after. And it might be a little over the top, but he loves it. And so it's only 10 o'clock, and I feel like I've already really I've had a full day, and I've appreciated a lot of it so far.
Well, it's Friday,
Yeah.
so you only have a few more hours left. But thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Jocelyne, if people want to learn more about you, connect with you, learn more about what you're doing today, we're going to have all of your information in the show notes. But if they want to do that, what's the easiest and the best place for them to do that?
Probably Instagram would be my most active social media channel. And then my sister and I, we do some hockey camps. We got a big hockey tournament that we do in September, and we have a foundation that we run to give back in the state of North Dakota. And so all of that information would just be funneled through my Instagram channel.
Amazing. Well, thank you for taking out the time and sharing your story. Very inspiring. And it's been exciting to see what you, your sister, and that core group of women back in 2017 has kicked off today in the world of women's hockey, and excited to see where we are 10, 15 years from now, because I'm sure it's going to be even further along the line. So thank you for everything, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, what an incredible conversation. Jocelyne, your story of resilience, determination, and game-changing impact is nothing short of inspiring. From dominating on the ice to fighting for equity and empowering the next generation, you've shown us what's possible when passion meets purpose. Thank you for sharing your journey and for the work you continue to do to make sports and the world a better place. To our listeners, if this conversation fired you up, share it, tag us, and keep chasing your own gold medal moments. Jocelyne Lamoureux-Davidson and all she is up to can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find her can be found in the show notes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Midland Money Mindset. Remember, it's not just about the money, it's finding joy in the journey and embracing the right mindset. If you love the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Don't forget to follow along for more tips and inspiration. Please visit the social links below to connect with Larry or his guests. Until next time, keep smiling, keep thriving, and remember to think about, what did you do today that brought you joy?
The opinions voiced in the Midland Money Mindset Show with Lawrence Sprung are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy ensures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Guests on the Midland Money Mindset Show are not affiliated with CWM LLC.